Welcome to Book Bites, your weekly dose of literary delight. We dive into Amazon's top-selling books, giving you the lowdown on what's hot and what's not. Join us as we uncover hidden gems, discuss captivating storylines, and analyze the minds of best-selling authors. Whether you're a seasoned reader or just starting your literary journey, there's something for everyone. So grab a cup of coffee, get cozy, and let's get reading.
All right, get ready, because today we're going deep into some seriously thought-provoking stuff, the world of power dynamics.
Ooh, exciting.
We're taking a deep dive into The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
This book has been called a lot of things: brilliant, manipulative, even downright Machiavellian.
Definitely a controversial one.
But one thing's for sure, it sparks some serious debate.
Yeah, for good reason.
So is this book a blueprint for ruthless ambition, or a fascinating historical study on the nature of power?
What do you think?
Well, let's find out together.
It's fascinating, isn't it? This book isn't your typical self-help guide.
Right. It's not exactly telling you to think positive and all your problems will disappear.
Uh-huh. No, not quite. Greene draws on centuries of strategic wisdom. Think Machiavelli, Sun Tzu, even Queen Elizabeth I.
Wow, talking about some serious historical heavy hitters.
Right. He distills it all into 48 laws for, well, gaining and maintaining power.
Okay, so we've got these 48 laws, each backed up by history. What are some of the most thought-provoking ones that really jumped out at you?
Well, one that immediately comes to mind is Law 1. Never outshine the master.
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like I've definitely seen that play out in the real world.
Haven't we all? It's a powerful reminder that even in a world that supposedly values talent and merit, managing your boss's ego can be just as important as your own performance.
Yeah, it makes you think twice about showing off too much, huh?
Right. Got to be strategic about it.
What about some of the other laws? Anything particularly intense or maybe even a bit unsettling?
Oh, there are plenty. For example, Law 15. Crush your enemy. Totally.
Whoa, that sounds intense.
This one really pushes us to think about the long game and the potential consequences of conflict.
Like, is it always the best move to completely obliterate your opponent, or could that create more problems down the line?
Exactly. It's not always about winning at all costs.
Yeah.
Sometimes a more measured approach is better in the long run.
That's a good point. Revenge can definitely backfire, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What else? There are 46 more laws to unpack here. Anything else that really grabbed your attention?
I'm curious to hear more. What else stood out?
Well, Law 27 is particularly relevant in today's world. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following.
Whoa, that's a bit unnerving. But I can see how it's true. People crave something to believe in, a cause, a leader, an ideology.
Right. And if you can tap into that need, you can cultivate immense loyalty and influence.
It makes sense, but it also feels a little, well, manipulative. Is that something Greene advocates for?
Well, it's more about understanding the underlying principle.
Okay, so not necessarily a how-to guide, but more like a look under the hood of how power works.
Exactly. Greene isn't necessarily endorsing manipulation, but he's presenting these laws as observations about how power operates in the real world.
So it's about awareness.
Precisely. He wants you to be aware of these dynamics, whether you choose to employ them or not.
Okay, so we've got a better sense of the book's structure and some of the key laws. Now, you mentioned earlier that this book has had a really mixed reception. Why do you think that is?
Well, as you can imagine, a book that delves into power dynamics and strategic manipulation is bound to raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical feel-good self-help book.
Some people praise it as a practical guide to success, while others criticize it as amoral and potentially dangerous.
Yeah, I can see both sides of that argument. On the one hand, understanding these laws can definitely be helpful in navigating the complexities of life.
Oh, sure.
But on the other hand, it's a slippery slope, isn't it? Where do you draw the line between being strategic and being manipulative?
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to approach this book with a critical eye. Don't take everything at face value. Think about the ethical implications of each law and how they might apply to your own life and values.
So use it as a tool for understanding, not necessarily a playbook for action.
Exactly. Awareness is key.
So let's delve into those strengths and criticisms a bit more. What are some of the things that make this book so compelling, even if you don't agree with everything it says?
Well, one of the most striking aspects is the depth of Greene's historical research.
Oh, I love that about this book. It makes these complex ideas about power so much more engaging and relatable.
Doesn't it?
You see how these principles have played out in the lives of real people, from emperors to artists to revolutionaries.
Absolutely.
It's like having a front row seat to history's biggest power plays.
You're not just reading a dry textbook. You're experiencing these power dynamics firsthand through the lives of these historical figures.
I agree. It's a whole different way of learning about history. Okay, so we've got the historical depth. What else makes this book stand out? What makes people keep coming back to it, even with all the controversy?
Well, another strength is its practical nature. Unlike some self-help books that offer vague platitudes, the 48 Laws of Power provides concrete strategies that you can potentially apply to different areas of life.
So it's not just about understanding power in some abstract sense, but also about wielding it effectively in your own life.
Precisely.
That's probably what draws some people to it, right? The idea that you can use this knowledge to get ahead, to achieve your goals, whatever those might be.
It provides a framework for understanding how to navigate the often unwritten rules of power dynamics.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be honest, this book has also been called out for being pretty ruthless. Some might even say downright amoral. Can you speak to some of those criticisms?
Yes, and those criticisms are valid. The book's primary focus on manipulation and power grabbing can be unsettling for some readers.
For sure. I mean, not every relationship has to be a power struggle, right? And isn't there value in things like cooperation, empathy, and genuine connection?
That's a great point. The book operates under the assumption that power dynamics are the primary driving force in all human interactions. And while that may be true in some cases, it's certainly not the whole story.
It's a bit like looking at the world through a very specific lens, maybe even a bit of a distorted one. You might see power plays everywhere, even where they don't exist.
And that's why it's so crucial to read this book with a critical mind. Don't just blindly accept everything Greene says as gospel. Question his assumptions, consider alternative perspectives, and think about how these laws might play out in different contexts.
Okay, that's some great advice. So we've talked about the strengths, the historical depth, the practical strategies, the unique perspective on power dynamics, and we've also acknowledged the criticisms, the ethical concerns, the potential for misuse, the narrow focus on power as the driving force in human interactions. It seems like this book is a bit of a double-edged sword.
Definitely.
Where do we go from here?
Well, now that we have a solid understanding of the book's framework and its strengths and weaknesses, I think it's time to delve deeper into some of the specific laws and how they might apply to your life. After all, the goal isn't to become a master manipulator yourself, but to become more aware of these dynamics and make more informed choices about how you navigate the world.
That sounds like a plan. Let's dive into the specifics and see what these laws can really teach us.
It's interesting how some of these laws can seem so contradictory at first glance.
Oh, totally. Like, how do you balance never outshine the master with the need to, actually showcase your talents and get ahead? It feels like a bit of a tightrope walk.
Yeah, that's where the nuance comes in. It's not about being incompetent or hiding your skills. It's about being strategic and understanding the psychology of the person in power. Remember Greene's drawing from history here. Think about how someone like Michelangelo navigated the whims of the Medici family. Powerful patrons, but also potential rivals. He had to showcase his genius while simultaneously making them feel secure and in control.
Ah, I see. So it's more about managing perceptions and playing the game skillfully. You're not necessarily being fake or insincere, but you're being mindful of the power dynamics at play. It's like that saying, it's not enough to be good. You have to look good too.
Exactly. And that segues perfectly into another law that I found quite fascinating, Law 3. Conceal your intentions. Think about it. If everyone knows your endgame, they can easily block your moves.
Ooh, that's a good one. I can see how that would apply in negotiations, business deals, even personal relationships. Keep people guessing, right?
Yeah.
Don't show your hand too early.
Precisely. You create an air of mystery and people start to project their own assumptions onto you. It gives you a strategic advantage.
Okay, so we've got to be strategic, conceal our intentions, manage perceptions. It's a lot to juggle. What happens when conflict is unavoidable? Is there a law for that?
Well, we've already touched on Law 15, crush your enemy. Totally.
Yeah.
But there's another one that offers a slightly different approach. Law 45, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once.
Okay, this sounds interesting. So it's not about avoiding change altogether.
No, it's about recognizing that people are inherently resistant to drastic change. If you push too hard too fast, you'll encounter resistance.
That makes sense. It's like trying to change someone's deeply held beliefs overnight. It's probably not going to go over well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This law encourages you to introduce change incrementally, almost like you're slipping it in under the radar. You acknowledge the need for change, but you do it in a way that feels manageable and non-threatening.
I like that. It's about being persuasive and strategic, not forceful or dictatorial. Reminds me of that quote, the best way to predict the future is to create it. But maybe Greene would say, the best way to create the future is to change it gradually.
That's a brilliant way to put it. Now, you mentioned earlier that some of these laws feel a bit manipulative. And it's true there are a few that delve into the darker aspects of human psychology.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Law 27 again, the one about creating a cult-like following. How do you use that kind of knowledge ethically, or is it even possible?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It all comes down to intention and awareness. The same principles that can be used to manipulate can also be used to inspire and motivate.
So it's not about the tools themselves, but how you choose to use them.
Exactly. A skilled orator can use their words to incite violence or to promote peace. A charismatic leader can build a movement based on fear and division, or one based on hope and unity.
Okay, so it's about recognizing the power of these principles and then making conscious choices about how to wield that power.
Precisely. And that's where self-awareness comes in. You have to understand your own motivations, your values, your boundaries. What are you willing to do to achieve your goals? And are those goals aligned with your sense of ethics?
That's such an important point. This book can be a powerful tool for understanding human behavior and the dynamics of power. But it's up to each individual to decide how they'll use that knowledge.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another key takeaway from this book, the importance of critical thinking.
Ooh, tell me more about that.
Well, it's tempting to read these laws and think, aha, now I have all the secrets to success. But the reality is much more complex.
Right, it's not a magic formula or a one-size-fits-all solution. Life is messy and people are unpredictable.
Exactly. That's why it's crucial to read the 48 Laws of Power with a critical mind. Don't just accept everything at face value. Question Greene's assumptions, consider alternative perspectives, and most importantly, think about how these laws might play out in different contexts. What works in one situation might backfire spectacularly in another.
It's like learning a new language. You can study the grammar and vocabulary, but you still need to practice speaking and listening to truly master it.
That's a great analogy. The 48 Laws of Power provides the framework, the vocabulary of power dynamics, but you need to apply it to real-world situations to observe how it plays out in different contexts and to adapt your approach accordingly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The importance of strategy, perception management, understanding human psychology, navigating conflict, and most importantly, thinking critically about how these laws might apply to our own lives. I'm already starting to see the world through a different lens, noticing power dynamics I might have overlooked before.
That's the beauty of it. It's not just about learning a set of rules. It's about expanding your awareness, becoming a more astute observer of human behavior, and ultimately making more informed choices about how you navigate the complexities of life.
This has been such a fascinating discussion. I'm eager to hear what other insights you've gleaned from this book.
Well, there's one more law I want to touch on that I think is particularly relevant for anyone striving to make a mark on the world.
Ooh, do tell, I'm all ears. Okay, so you are about to share another law that really struck you, one that's especially relevant for those of us who, want to make a difference and leave our mark on the world. What is it?
Well, it's Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. Now, at first glance, this might seem kind of superficial.
Like it's all about smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, exactly. But if you look deeper, it's about understanding the power of symbolism, of creating these memorable experiences that capture people's imaginations.
Oh, I like where this is going. So it's not just about being good at what you do, but also about presenting it in a way that resonates with people, that makes a lasting impression.
Exactly. Think about some of history's most influential figures. They didn't just have great ideas. They knew how to package those ideas in a way that, captivated and inspired others.
Oh, give me some examples. Who are we talking about here?
Well, take someone like Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
His speeches were more than just words. They were events.
Yeah.
Spectacles that galvanize a movement.
Powerful imagery.
Or think about Steve Jobs. His product launches were legendary.
Oh, yeah.
Carefully orchestrated performances that created a sense of awe and excitement around Apple products.
They were huge. I remember watching those. They weren't just selling products or ideas. They were creating experiences, tapping into people's emotions and aspirations. It makes you realize that presentation really matters.
Absolutely. And this applies to so many areas of life. If you're an artist It's not enough to just create great art. You need to find ways to showcase it, to create an experience for your audience. If you're an entrepreneur, it's not enough to have a great product. You need to tell a compelling story, to build a brand that people connect with.
It's like that saying, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. But in this case, it's create the spectacle that aligns with the impact you want to make.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's really the key takeaway here. It's not about being flashy or superficial. It's about understanding that power of symbolism, of creating moments that resonate, that inspire, that move people to action.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've explored the intricacies of power dynamics, the historical context, the potential benefits and pitfalls, and most importantly, how we can apply these insights to our own lives. What's your final thought for our listeners today? What's the one thing you want them to take away from this conversation?
Throughout this deep dive, I've been struck by the duality of this book. On the one hand, it reveals some uncomfortable truths about human nature.
Right.
The ways in which power can be used and abused. But on the other hand, it's also a call to awareness, an invitation to become more conscious of the forces at play in our lives and in the world around us.
I agree. It's like Greene is saying, look, these are the rules of the game, whether you like them or not. But now that you know them, you have a choice. You can choose to play the game consciously, ethically, and strategically, or you can choose to remain oblivious and become a pawn in someone else's game.
That's a powerful way to put it. Knowledge is power, but it's what you do with that knowledge that truly matters.
Well said. So to our listeners out there, we encourage you to think critically about these laws, to observe how they operate in the world around you, and most importantly, to use this knowledge wisely, ethically, and for the greater good.
Remember, the ultimate goal is not just to acquire power, but to use it to create a more just, equitable, and fulfilling world for yourself and for others.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the 48 Laws of Power. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered.
That's all for this episode of Book Bites. We hope you enjoyed our review, and if you did, please like, share, and follow our podcast. And don't forget to leave a comment with your thoughts on the book. We love hearing from our listeners.